order. Everyone had a chance to look through the minutes.
So I will say that when it's hybrid, you have to use your outside voice.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Everyone
Yes,
at
good,
home.
good. So we're calling the meeting to order. And we need the approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Looking at old business. Advisory opinion, Ed, we were looking into that. We left that off where we would look at the resume to make a decision.
Correct. So just as a refresher for everybody, we received a request for an advisory opinion as to whether Igor Litvinov in the city's law department is required to file the state statement of financial interest form and the supplemental City of Reading statement of financial interest form. I wrote up the draft opinion, and it's just a draft with the conclusion that based on what I was told, that Mr. Litvinov would not be required to file. After the draft opinion was circulated, there was some information obtained, which states that Mr. Litvinov's position is classified as deputy solicitor. And then we had information from the state ethics commission that it's their position that deputies are to file the statements of financial interest. I would point out that to me, the key issue is whether or not, it's not so much the job title, frankly, as to whether the individual has what is defined as decision-making authority. We do have an esteemed guest tonight, Mr. Latchett, the city solicitor. I think he wants to speak and be heard on this issue, Angela. So if it's appropriate, you could ask Mr. Latchett to offer whatever insights he wants to offer.
Since we're all here and we want to know exactly what tying with the job description, if you would enlighten us so we could come to a right decision. I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. It's an honor to be able to be a part of this, and to be quite honest, I never thought we'd be here in October, still discussing this. But I think it would be very helpful for you guys to hear from myself to clear the air, because Igor and I listened in on some of the prior meetings. I think there's a little bit of confusion as to what his role is with the city. It's a very important role. I don't want to diminish anything that Igor does. He's invaluable to the law department. He's an attorney that serves the city in a variety of ways. That being said, ultimately any decision that would have any financial impact, any decision that could have a substantive impact on anyone's financial status or property rights or really anything, ultimately goes through me. I value Igor's input, and as to the other members of the administration who work with him, but ultimately, as a deputy solicitor, he reports to me, gets authority through me. I then in turn usually get authority through either the managing director or the mayor. But in any event, the day-to-day functions of the deputy solicitor really do not involve any discretion that would typically be associated with having to file a financial statement. And I think it might be helpful to understand how we got to the term deputy solicitor. When I started with the law department 12 years ago, there was a solicitor, and there were 3 legal specialists. There were 3 attorneys. At the time, now Judge Tanya Butler was the most senior legal specialist, and then there was myself and Thomas Coleman, who was another attorney with the city. As basically after I kept nagging the former solicitor Chuck Younger about being confused with a non-attorney position, he finally relented and agreed that we could change it to staff attorney. That was probably 2014, I would say. And then when Chuck retired, JD Krafcheck took over, and we had another attorney join the law department, and he wanted to go by the moniker first assistant city solicitor, and the rest of us became assistant city solicitors. A couple years later, the former Secretary of State became the managing director, and there was some confusion, basically because I butchered the letterhead and left a typo. It came to the managing director's attention, and as a state former executive level state official with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, he recommended the term deputy, not because it changed any of my requirements. At that time, I had been elevated to the first deputy solicitor. I'm sorry, the first assistant solicitor position, which was just changed to deputy, essentially on a whim. And another thing is, just to kind of give the background of how we got here. And I want to make this clear, and I know Ed touched on it, but it kind of got lost in the shuffle. But I do want to say that this was not, this is not something Igor is fighting. He he completed the disclosure, gave it to me, and I'm like, well, to be honest, I was the one that said, Igor, you don't have to do this. I never did it as a assistant. So unless you really want to, because he was a little uncomfortable, disclosing information unless he had to. And I think that's a fair for anybody that, it is fairly intrusive, and it is something that really should be for, people that are required to do it. And that, so I told him, I think this was a mistake. We got a follow-up letter, and I said, okay, all right, well, I apologize to Igor. I said, I'll get an advisory opinion from the ethics board. And how about we submit your the completed disclosure to the solicitor? So we sent it to Ed Stock. I think I also copied council solicitor Mike Gumbar on it, just so it was clear we weren't hiding anything, but we did want to get this issue resolved, not just because as it applies to Mr. Litvinov, but also as it applies to other similarly situated city employees. I mean, if we're going to take a fairly draconian view of what who it applies to, I think there's lots of people who make decisions. I mean, from a basic citation issued by a traffic officer, our property maintenance division, zoning, et cetera. There's this could balloon into potentially dozens or hundreds of city employees having to fill out this statement based on what their day-to-day functions are, if it involves any discretion, that issuing a $300 loitering ticket, or a $500 housing violation. I think that is not what is intended by the state ethics board and the state legislation that requires this financial disclosure. And then the other thing is, I still have not seen whatever the guidance is that at the state level that requires deputies to file it. But I think the other thing I would say is that at the in the Commonwealth, if you're a deputy, you're basically running the show in a larger department than most of city departments. You know, if you look at like DEP has several subdivisions where the person in charge is the deputy secretary of you know, air and water. They manage, you know, dozens or if not hundreds of employees, and command a pretty hefty salary for a public official. That I think is what that applies to. I don't think it was meant to be anybody in a municipal government position that was given a deputy role. I could be wrong with that, but again, I haven't seen that opinion. But that my assumption is that was meant to apply to state level employees, because if you're a state level employee with deputy in your name, you have a lot of responsibility. You probably your decisions impact could have a huge financial impact, and it is thereby important to have it clear to the public what kind of, you know, financial interests you have, to so it's clear you are not making decisions that benefit yourself or people close to you that, you know, where you gain from it. So anyway, that's what I just wanted to share, that information. I'd be glad to answer any questions any of you have, but I did want to clear the air as to, you know, what Igor's role is, and hopefully get some that with this advisor opinion, we could get some guidance for the rest of City Hall. You know, who should and who shouldn't. I know, you know, there's some that's very clear. Like, even if I didn't make a single decision ever that had any financial impact, it's, you know, they clearly specify solicitor. So, and not just when I've been appointed to the solicitor position, but when I've been an acting solicitor, I've filled it out, even though technically my day-to-day job was deputy solicitor. So I think that that's a clear one. You know, most department directors and obviously any elected official, but you know, I was hoping that we could get some guidance, because it's not as clear as it could be. And but I certainly don't want people filling these out just because they're not sure.
This is Jeff Darlington. I guess the questions that we had originally, you know, with the binding authority capacity. I mean, if Attorney Latchet, if you were to be incapacitated,
Right.
in that event, would the assistant or deputy, or however we want to term that, I mean, what would take place?
The mayor would appoint somebody. It could be it could be Igor, it could be Ed. Frankly, it could be you know, any attorney, that if I were incapacitated for a period of time such that the show needed to go on, so to speak. You know, obviously, you know, I go on vacation, we make arrangements for it. You know, if I was laid out in a hospital bed or worse, then, you know, we would know that was the situation, and the mayor would most likely appoint Igor. And like I said, when I was acting, you know, even if Igor is acting for a week, he would fill out the form in the following year. But that hasn't happened yet. You know, that, you know, thankfully I haven't been incapacitated yet. So we haven't had to get there. But if we did, yeah, that would be a different story. And you know, but that's not the case. And again, it's not like a vice president situation where, you know, if I'm incapacitated, Igor is, you know, sworn in on a flight, like you know, like the vice president was many years ago.
Yeah. So is it a matter of, I mean, is it possibly an HR issue that we just change? You know, Shelley, this is the information that you sent us that you know, gave the positions and whether they're full-time, et cetera, of just deleting the deputy solicitor. Am I hearing that right? So that Igor would be the assistant? Would that be? We
can certainly do that. I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, again, I need to see I still haven't seen the whatever this guidance or opinion or whatever it is from the state level. If it's clear it applies to municipal employees, then yeah, it would be as simple as changing Igor's title in the position ordinance to back to first assistant. And we wouldn't have to change. I don't think we'd have to change a single sentence in the job description or anything in our ordinances. It would just be as simple as changing that one, the title of the position itself.
Jeff, it's not really the title, though. It's really the authority that the
Right.
position has that's crucial.
Yeah.
And then I forget,
think
did I?
Shelley- Excuse me a second. Shelley was asked a question and I think she put her hand up. I don't think she got a chance to answer it. So Shelley, were you gonna say something?
Yes, thank you, Ralph. So Fred, this proof from the state that you're looking for came to me via email from one of the auditors' staff at the state ethics commission, giving me the list of positions that they wanted me to submit to them for their review during this audit. There's a whole long list, and that it is department heads and deputies. So that's something that I didn't realize before this audit, and it's something that since the audit, I've changed my process by requesting deputies to submit them now to the state. So if we get audited again, and I, as deputy clerk, haven't filed my 2023 form, that's gonna be a problem when they audit us in 2024. So it's not just Igor, it's all the deputy department directors that got asked for this. In addition, it is the elected officials, it's the police chief, the captains, it's the fire chief, it's all the deputy chiefs. And it really does become a long list. Most people fill them out and submit them to me and they go in a file, and there hasn't been an issue. So that's why I started sending them to deputies, and that was on the guidance of the state commission's audit.
Okay, Shelley, that would have been something, frankly, I would have liked to have seen. When you get something like that, I think it would be a good practice to share that with the solicitor and say, hey, this is why we're doing this. And but please do send that to me. I'll be glad to take a look at it. And if it's coming from the state, sure, yeah. I mean, we would, that would have answered the question. We wouldn't be here, frankly. I wouldn't be on this phone call right now. So.
I have 3 points. First of all, Fred, hi. It's been a while.
Hey, Ralph, how's it going?
Second of all, okay, I'm sorry I got up and walked away while you were talking, but I tripped my car alarm in my pocket and I had to get to the window to shut the alarm off. So I apologize.
You're off in the
for walking
distance.
away
It didn't even register.
Okay. Ed, I believe there's a statement or something you read to us the last time about the duties performed or something that applies here. Can you help us out, Ed? Refresh my memory, please.
I think what I must have been referring to, Ralph, is, I don't honestly remember, but the Code of Ethics says that any official or employee of the city, I'm eliminating some of the excess words, but any official, it's section 5-1004, any official or employee of the city with decision-making authority shall file with the city clerk a statement of financial interests. And that's what I said earlier during this meeting. To me, it's not so much the job title as it is what the authority is of the employee in question. Now, Shelley's 100% correct. I mean, she got a communication from the State Ethics Commission, and they had a laundry list of positions, which included deputies, as being subject to the filing requirements. And probably in most instances, a deputy does have decision-making authority. Either if the director is present, the deputy still has a certain degree of decision-making authority, and certainly if the department head is not in the office for whatever reason, the deputy is usually given at least some degree of authority to make decisions in the absence of the department head. So I think what Mr. Latchett is saying is that, and to a certain extent, the law department's a little different than maybe other departments. But as I said, Ralph, to me, it's not so much the job title itself as to whether the position retains a certain degree of decision-making authority. Certainly, it's just administratively easier to say all deputies have to file, because then you don't have to look at it on a job-by-job basis or a department-by-department basis. But I think that's what I was talking about, Ralph.
Okay. And I think that's right, Ed. And for everybody's point, I had asked for the job description. And in my interpretation, Ralph's interpretation of the position background and job responsibilities, I think the position background indicates this person has those abilities. And 5 of the 8 bullets under job responsibilities, to me, this position does have those abilities, in addition to what we got from the State Ethics Board. And some of the references, Fred, you made, I think there's a difference between enforcing laws and guiding and counseling the city council and mayor and department heads. I don't know. I feel this, my opinion is this person does need to file the ethics thing based on the job description and the information Shelley gave. That's my thought, but I'm open to hear what the other committee board members have to say.
Well, Ralph, you can make a motion to, now the draft, as I said earlier, the draft advisory opinion I sent concluded the opposite of what you just indicated, but you could, or any member of the board could move to issue an advisory opinion indicating that Attorney Litvinov would be required to file, and then I can write, I'd have to revise the draft opinion accordingly, but I can do that. So, maybe it's time for that motion to occur.
I just want to give the other members a chance if they want to say anything before I make that motion.
Based on what Shelley said regarding the state, it's leaning towards that they need to do that. That's coming from the state, am I correct?
Yes,
That's a requirement from the state, so we can't go against that.
I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back? Okay.
Shelley, and again, what I have in front of me is the job description of the assistant solicitor. So are we talking about the deputy or the assistant? And I think it probably all falls back into what Shelley said, that if it's from an audit standpoint, that's number one, leaning towards the fact that a financial statement should be completed. And if the job description of the assistant solicitor says, as far as job responsibilities, reviews and drafts contracts. So in terms of binding the city, Ed, I mean, those two issues seem to point to, yes, there should be compliance with the financial statement.
I would just say, and this is again why we're why I'm here today is that there's a lot of assumptions being made for, that's a great example, reviews and drafts contracts. First of all, that's in the job description, but it mostly is me doing that. And it's drafting contracts that have already been approved by city council. So, and have gone through purchasing. There's not a whole lot, I mean, I'm not going out and wheeling and dealing and negotiating the contract and then coming back to council and say, oh, by the way, I just, leased a new vehicle, or, bought a fire truck, or, entered into a contract to build a museum. Those are the things that go through the purchasing process, are then sent to city council for their approval. The work to be done, or the thing to be bought, and the dollar amount involved. But in any event, once it gets done, we're just basically drafting the contract, making sure it's put together properly, and then setting it out for signatures. And Ralph, maybe one way to look at it is, Ralph, you and I worked closely together.
Yep.
Tell me one time where I made a decision where I didn't have to get approval through Chuck, you, the mayor, or the managing director when I was the assistant city solicitor. Give me one example where I was able to do something in this level position that, where I had full discretion to bind the city in any way, or to benefit, or to do something that could benefit myself. It just doesn't happen in that position. But again, if the state, and this could all be a colossal waste of time. If the state issued an opinion that says all deputies need to be filling these out, then it's a no-brainer. We're not going to argue. But I think if it comes down to does the deputy, or frankly the third, we have a third level attorney. The position was unfilled for 2 years, but we've now hired somebody. It would be the same situation with them, even though they don't have the deputy in their name. But like I said, Mr. Livanov has filled out his financial statement, has shared it with the ethics board solicitor and the city council solicitor. So, we respect whatever the advisory opinion is. We'll, go with that. I just wanted to make sure we did this right, and that, we're not, burdening people that don't need to be burdened. It's, it is important. I mean, the information out there, the people that are, don't have the authority and frankly, the salary to back up, the need to do this, shouldn't have, their financial information shared with the world simply because, they've taken a public service job. And frankly, for the law department, the assistant city solicitors, and, they're doing this, they're not doing this for the money.
None of us do. That's why we're public servants.
So Fred,
and
a question for you. You asked me a question, but I want to ask, is the deputy the same as the assistant by job description?
And Shelley, by the way, you shouldn't be filling this out either. Like, it's not like a badge of
I
honor.
know, but I do. And I mean, a lot of other
Congratulations,
deputies have as well.
Okay.
Right,
So
but
anyway,
but we should do what's right, not what feels right. That's what I want to get.
I just forwarded that email to you, so that should be coming up in your inbox.
So Fred, is the deputy the same as an assistant by job description?
Pretty much. I mean, and I think I just shared, coincidentally, revised job descriptions were due to the managing director right at like the day after you guys had your last meeting. So I could tell Ed it wasn't, I didn't just whip this up because we watched your meeting. It really was a plan to do it at around the same time. But it's essentially, I mean, it's essentially the same in that, they support the solicitor with legal services.
Yep. So Fred, I'll answer your question is, quite honestly, none of us have the authority to enter the city into a contract or settle a legal thing. because it all had to go to council and be authorized to be signed.
Well,
However, we all.
that's actually,
I want to finish, Fred, I want to finish, please. However, we all have, at our levels of deputy and directors, we have responsibility to guide and counsel and the mayor and all that. And I don't see this position being any different than the rest of us. And that's just my opinion. That's not the group's opinion, but I wanted to answer your question.
yeah, and I was only interrupting you to because I may have misspoke earlier in saying that, you know, not every contract, not every purchase goes through council. As you're aware, there are thresholds that don't require council approval. So, you know, again, this is kind of it's an odd situation because there's people that probably don't fill it out that you know have the opportunity to benefit themselves or others more so than somebody who simply has the name deputy in their title. And I think really, you know, that's what should be the consideration is, you know, what their discretion is, and is it something that, frankly, the public should be aware of their financial entanglements. And you know, look, like I said, we stand ready to submit it. I didn't come here to advocate or argue. I just want to get this right for everybody, you know, that works for the city, that, you know, that we're not overdoing it, we're not, and certainly not underdoing it. You know, we don't want to find out. We should actually have more people. If it comes out, you know, with the board doing this exercise and butting our heads together, that maybe we need more people to submit them, I'm okay with that. You know, that we got to do what we got to do, but I don't want us doing what we don't have to do, or I don't want to put anyone in a position where they're, you know, filling something out that you know could be misused by someone else, quite frankly, and if they don't have to. And I think that's really what this is all about.
So I'm prepared to make a motion unless anybody else has anything else to say. If not, I'm making a motion that the deputy solicitor does have to fill out the form due to the list that we got from the State Ethics Commission and job description, and the fact that counseling and guiding is different than enforcing when comparing it to other employees.
Yeah, I mean, I'll second that. I mean,
You have to call for question. You have to call for question now.
Yeah,
Okay, any questions?
I guess my only question is if Shelley, is there a way for you to go to the, I don't know, the assistant, the state auditor and see, you know, obviously if this is their position, that's something that the city has got to adhere to. Unless there's anything else, I mean, if it comes through in an audit that these folks need to complete, is there anything else that you need to follow up with?
as far as with the state, I don't need to follow up with anything. They have already provided that guidance to me.
Right, okay. Nope.
The other thing is, this is an advisory opinion. You know, we certainly, I mean, I don't ask for them to you know, to get the answer I want, or, you know, to ignore an answer I don't want. But you know, if I have a contact at the state I could follow up with, you know, certainly I would reach out to Ed and say, hey, look, I spoke to you know, this person, and that they agree that, you know, that frankly, either way, I would say, hey, look, you guys made the right decision. And maybe you want to supplement your opinion, but if they say, oh yeah, no, that wasn't the intention of whatever it was they sent, that, you know, that deputy solicitor or anyone else who has deputy in their name and all of a sudden has received, and Igor's not the only one. I know one other former employee was like, what, why did I get this? So we do want to make it so that, people understand, and, I think it would be helpful, and would have been helpful with Mr. Lipanov if there was an explanation as to why after, working in a position, basically the same position, they're getting this, it can feel like they're being, treated differently than people that have held the position before them, or even, I think, Igor's case where he held basically the same position the year prior to this. So I'll take a look at what the state had, but, I'm glad I've had the opportunity to at least explain what you were looking for in terms of an advisory opinion, what the deputy solicitor position is and isn't, and help you guys make an informed decision.
We appreciate you taking the time and joining us, Fred. Shelley had to step out a minute. I think we have to have Shelley here when we call the vote. Am I correct, Ed?
Somebody has to record it, correct?
Yes, we just gotta wait a minute till Shelley can step back in. She apologized, but she had to step out a minute.
Ed, should we, I guess it would be inappropriate to move on to my next, because I'm on a crunch for time here.
Yeah, I don't think we can move once we got a motion and a second up there.
Well, I'm not looking for a decision. I just wanted to explain another topic that I was looking for some guidance on.
Yeah, just wait, Fred, I'll cover it.
Okay, Shelley, we're ready to call the vote, but I'd like you to read the motion. Take your time. Everybody understands, but I'd like you to read the motion to make sure the way I worded it is coming out right.
You moved to that the deputy solicitor must file a statement of financial interest based on the state guidance and the job description. Excuse me.
And I'd like the words about and the separation of guidance and counseling versus enforcement. Please, I'd like those words in there.
So added.
Okay?
Okay.
Now you need to.
Okay, so we'll take a vote.
We do it as a group, Shelley, or you do it as
Yeah, you
individuals?
and all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Opposed?
Any opposed?
No.
We're your Sixers.
So I think Fred would like to cover a second topic before he has to jump off, if that's okay with you.
Well, let me introduce it though. So in your updated packet that was distributed today is a draft of, it's called Advisory Opinion 2023-4. Although in actuality, it's Advisory Opinion 2023-3. So we're going to renumber it. But on Friday, Mr. Latchett reached out to me and asked for an advisory opinion. By action of City Council, there's going to be a referendum on the ballot this coming election day to remove the requirement that the Director of Public Works be a professional civil engineer. City apparently has had trouble filling that position because of that requirement. And the mayor would like to make public statements or announcements in support of the referendum. When Fred called me, it was in the nature of like a public service announcement or PSA. So I wrote up the opinion over the weekend. I think there's two code or charter provisions that are potentially at issue. One is the section 1006F of the Code of Ethics that prohibits city employees and officials from using any personnel, equipment, supplies, etc., basically city-owned property for their private purposes, use, enjoyment, or benefit. I concluded that that section really would not apply because if the mayor speaks in favor of this referendum using city equipment or on city property, I would believe that he's speaking not for any private benefit, but for public purposes. And then the other provision would be section 706 of the Home Rule Charter, which prohibits employees from engaging in any form of political activity during regular work hours. The definition of political activity that I'm referring to is found in the Code of Ethics, and it's any activity promoting the candidacy of any individual seeking elective office or the advocacy of any political party or position. In my opinion, the way I wrote this draft up, I don't see how the mayor speaking in support or frankly a referendum that was put on not by a taxpayer, but was put on the ballot by city council for what the mayor believes would be the benefit of the city, how that would constitute political activity as defined in the Code of Ethics. So the draft opinion would, basically indicate that if the mayor does speak in the form of a public service announcement in favor of the referendum, that I don't believe that would violate the Home Rule Charter or the Code of Ethics.
And if I may, I just want to very quick because I have to excuse myself, but it's funny and hearing you say that I think I was caught up on the word position in that, like I was thinking of like a political position, meaning like it's my position that we vote on this but now I'm realizing it might be like an appointed position or something to that matter. But the only reason and why this was rushed was this came up recently, and I think someone misunderstood my position on this issue. I didn't think it was a problem, given that it was a city-initiated referendum on basically, if it wasn't a charter provision, it would be something we would do administratively, but it has to go on a ballot through a referendum. But I think what led me to calling Ed was I just, in an abundance of caution, because somebody mentioned that, I was like, all right, I'm going to just give this a look. I went and looked back at old advisory opinions. So that, there was one that there wasn't, I think a lot of detail is exactly what the question was or what was the issue was and who was involved. But there was a city employee, I guess, who was helping a citizen-driven initiative committee during work hours, and they wanted to know whether that was appropriate, and I think the ultimate decision was it was not. I just want to run this by Ed. I do think the distinction here, as Ed mentioned, and as I just tried to explain, that this is something, and frankly, that all of city government supports, and we just want to get the word out as much as possible. Frankly, I was speaking about it last night at the committee of the whole, as were others. So this would just be a matter of somebody, and not necessarily the mayor, but somehow putting it out in either the radio, television, or print media, just educating the public as to what is on the ballot. So anyway, I have to go, but I hope you consider that, and that we so we could have some guidance as to what we can and can't do on that particular issue. Thank you all for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks,
So
Fred.
I'll make a motion. Ed, if I may, I'll make a motion that we approve your drafted advisory opinion number 2023-4, now called advisory opinion 2023-3 as drafted and included in the most recent copy of our meeting agenda.
Right.
And I'll second it.
Any questions?
No question.
And all in favor?
I'm,
Aye.
So there's no advisor opinion 2023-4, correct?
That was it.
That was it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll-
Ed, did you say something?
no,
And I think. you brought up
Angela,
something
is
so-
that we have to, what's in your packet is watermarked with the word draft on it. I will take that off and between me and Shelley, we will get that to you to officially sign as the chairperson of the board. And then Shelley can distribute the opinion.
So now we move on to complaint 230918.
So that's just an update. That a complaint was submitted, it's before the investigative officer, and he is, found jurisdiction and is in the preliminary investigation phase.
I'm sorry, Shelley, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, the complaint 23-0918 is just to confirm and put on the record that there is a complaint before the investigative officer. He has found jurisdiction and it is in the preliminary investigative stage.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything else? Be planning on the next meeting or?
Well, under 4, there's this board policy on enforcement of subpoenas. Did we talk about that and I miss it?
No, I think we skipped it. Ed, do you have an update on that?
No, I don't.
So are we gonna put that off to next meeting then?
Yeah, that
Well,
will
it's-
remain there until,
Shelley will
Decide
make
if we're
me
gonna-
do it. She will make me do it.
So Shelley, on the agenda, there's an advisory opinion 3 and 4, and now I'm confused. Is there no 3 and only a 3 and no 4, or how is this?
so there was a 3 pending that Ed and I worked it through mostly, via email, and then it eventually was withdrawn. So that was off the table before you even saw it. So the one that was marked 4 is really 3. The one with the, that was just new tonight.
Gosh, okay, I got it.
Right. Anything else for the board? We gotta decide next meeting date now or later, set something out, Shem?
Unless we have any other business to finish, I don't think we need to pick another meeting at this time.
But if there's nothing else, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. for
very
joining.
good.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Yep, bye-bye.
Good night.
Take care.